Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So lads, we might have something interesting here. And I say might because this is one of those situations where it could mean something big, or it could end up meaning absolutely nothing. Yeah, one of those confusing-ass situations. But when you're following a team closely, especially during the WNBA offseason, you start noticing the little things. And sometimes those little things turn out to be a pretty big damn deal. What we noticed today involves the Indiana Fever roster page, and more specifically, a player who was not there yesterday, but suddenly showed up today. Now let me explain exactly what happened. Yesterday, if you went onto the official Women's National Basketball Association app and checked the Fever roster, there were only a few players listed. It was pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. You had Caitlin Clark, you had Aaliyah Boston, and you had Michaela Timpson. That was it. 3 players showing up on the roster page. But when you open the app today, something has changed. There is now a 4th name. And that name is Kelsey Mitchell. So immediately, people started asking the obvious question. What the hell does this mean? Did she sign a deal? Is she officially back? Or is this just some technical shit happening behind the scenes? Because if you follow the Fever right now, you know Kelsey Mitchell is the biggest storyline surrounding this team, outside of Caitlin Clark. Her free agency situation has been one of the most talked about topics among Fever fans. Now, before we jump to conclusions, let's break down what we actually know. First of all, the roster page change is real. If you open the WNBA app right now and go to the Fever section, you'll see Kelsey Mitchell listed on the roster alongside Clark, Boston, and Timpson. That wasn't the case before. And when something like that changes, it naturally raises questions. Now, some people are already saying, oh, that doesn't mean anything. She was probably just cored. And that's an important thing to understand here. In the WNBA, the core designation is basically the equivalent of a franchise tag. When a team cores a player, that player cannot sign with another team unless the original team trades those rights. So, technically, once a player is cored, they are essentially tied to that team for that season, unless something unusual happens. That's why when people say she's still a free agent, that's not exactly accurate once the core tag is involved. At that point, the team controls the situation. Simple as that. And the Indiana Fever absolutely have reason to want control of this situation. Because let's be honest here for a second. Kelsey Mitchell has been one of the most important players in this franchise for years. Even before the arrival of Caitlin Clark, she was carrying a huge offensive load. She has consistently been one of the top scorers on the team and one of the more dangerous guards in the league. Now, combine that scoring ability with the playmaking of Caitlin Clark and the interior dominance of Aaliyah Boston, and suddenly, you start to see why the Fever might want to keep this core together. The chemistry between those players matters. And that's why a lot of people believe the odds of her returning are extremely high. If we're talking percentages, you could argue there's a 90% chance she's back, maybe even higher, because from a basketball standpoint, bringing her back just makes sense. Think about the direction the Fever are going right now. They have one of the most exciting young cores in the entire league. Caitlin Clark has completely changed the attention and energy around the franchise. Aaliyah Boston is already one of the most dominant bigs in the NBA, and the team has been adding veterans and role players to try to compete immediately. So the idea of letting Kelsey Mitchell walk away doesn't really align with that plan. Not at all. Unless, and this is the key part, she personally wants something different. Because ultimately, if a player doesn't want to stay, there's only so much a team can do. But if we're being realistic, most signs still point towards her returning. There are also financial reasons why staying could make sense. The WNBA salary structure is changing, and future max contracts are expected to increase. That means players who sign shorter deals now could potentially make more money later when the cap goes up. So if Mitchell signs a 1-year deal and proves she's still a max-level player, she could end up earning significantly more over the next few seasons. That kind of bet-on-yourself strategy happens all the time in professional sports. Instead of locking into a long-term deal immediately, a player takes a shorter contract, performs at a high level, and then cashes in later when the market improves. For someone like Mitchell, who is still one of the most explosive scoring guards in the league, that might actually be the smartest damn move. Another factor is simply the opportunity to compete. The Fever are trying to win now. They're not rebuilding anymore, they're not tanking, they're not looking 3 or 4 years down the road. The organization is clearly trying to put together a roster that can compete in the near future. And from their perspective, keeping Kelsey Mitchell alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is probably the most straightforward way to do that. You already know those players can play together. You already know Mitchell can score at a high level, and you already know Clark's passing ability can create even more open opportunities for shooters. That offensive combination could be extremely dangerous. Of course, there are always other possibilities. Some fans have talked about potential trades. Others have wondered if the Fever might try to bring in different star players through free agency. There are always scenarios where teams reshuffle their roster to chase a different type of roster construction. But based on what we're seeing right now, the simplest explanation might be the most likely one. Kelsey Mitchell appearing on the Indiana Fever roster page probably means the Fever still fully intend to keep her in their plans. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean she has signed a long-term contract yet, but it does suggest the team still holds her rights and expects her to be part of the roster moving forward. And honestly, if you're the Fever, that's probably exactly what you want. Because when you look at this team's potential, the idea of running it back with Clark, Boston, and Mitchell is incredibly exciting. Add a few solid role players around them, improve the defense, and suddenly the Fever could become one of the most dangerous teams in the league. And that's why this small roster update is getting so much attention. Sometimes a tiny change on an app can tell you a lot about what might be happening behind the scenes. Crazy as hell. So, right now, the big takeaway is simple. Kelsey Mitchell is showing up on the Indiana Fever roster page. That doesn't guarantee anything yet, but it definitely makes things interesting. And if the Fever truly want to compete at the highest level this season, bringing her back might be one of the most important moves they make. Anyway, that's the situation as it stands right now. Let me know what you think. Do you believe Kelsey Mitchell is officially coming back to the Indiana Fever, or do you think there's still a chance something unexpected happens? Either way, this is definitely a story worth watching as the offseason continues. Tell me what you think. Don't forget, like and subscribe.